Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 41st episode of the Dancer DLC for Cultist Simulator, playing as Margaret Zell. I noticed that there's a new update to the game, and it looks like one of the community members has been working with Weather Factory part-time, so there's some new modding features inside of the game. And personally, I'm actually really happy to see that, because I know earlier a community member by the name of Lyra Zyder was involved with the game. So it's kind of nice just to see that the game is benefiting from some extra help. Obviously, it's also nice when people get paid for the work that they're doing. It's probably not something that will affect this given playthrough, but I do know that a few of you have mentioned mods to the game. Now the thing is that there's a lot of achievements inside of Cultist Simulator that I haven't gotten yet, and I also feel that there's quite a bit inside of the base game as it is that that I can sort of explore and do inside of these videos. But I'm also sympathetic to people sort of wanting to see some other content along those lines. So I haven't made a firm decision in terms of when I'll start looking into any mods, or even if, because I mean there's a question in terms of just how many series I'm going to do overall. But for those of you who are interested in modding, or perhaps maybe aspire to make a mod yourself, I know there are some new tools, and it definitely looks like I mean, again, if there's somebody who's working and helping out with the various QA and other duties, as well as having some suggestions implemented inside of the game, I suspect it may be a good time to check some of those things out. Now, as for me, I've forgotten a little bit about where we were in the playthrough. So we do have the unnumbered stones and the instar creeping, so I would suggest that we should probably just make our way out there. But maybe let me just take a quick look at the rest of the the rest of the state of the board. Visions coming up, but we don't have excuse me, we don't have any fascination on the table. We're just wrapping up a season of despair, so we'll also have a fleeting reminiscence in our pocket. We are currently reading on Matthias and the Amethyst Dimigo Lost. I'll read that text again just so that we can have that clear. Working at the Gaiety now. This is one of the things I wanted to take a look at. So when we're working at the Gaiety, normally I'm alternating between that and another activity. My guess here is probably I was working on commissions. It looks like we've got a Heart and a Secret Histories one to work on. Clearly we've got a bunch of books to go through. And then it wouldn't be surprised, yeah, we're charming. Okay. So I don't think what I want to do with my... I don't think anything I want to do with my... I think anything I want to do with the work verb is going to be affecting the expedition. So let's take the unnumbered stone. Sorry, I said I was going to take a look at the text first. So, on Matthias and Amethyst Dimigo Loss. An account of an occult romance. A certain Para, son of Aaron, claims to have written this in a single day and a single night as part of his initiation into the Damascene branch of the House of Leith, that tight-lipped, disciplined order of immortals who reject past and future. The laws of the house forbade Matthias to love, the customs of the wood forbade the Imago to remain, so he conjured her a final time, when she had uncovered the shears of Alcapura, and she suffered him to cut the wings from her back, so that she might remain, and he suffered her to cut the parts which hold old man's seed, to keep them from the detestable act. This was love in all its blood and joy. We have cast out Matthias from the house. Okay. Now my instar creeping among the stones where the black beast burrows, behind the mask of eyes, we will seek the third change. So we'll take the unnumbered stones, we'll add the hint and the pergussigant, not necessarily because we think they're the most important, but because they are the ones that are expiring. The unnumbered stones, the megaliths placed in obsessive, inerrant rows by priest casts long dead. Time has long erased the original bloodstains, but on moonless nights the locals supplement what remains. Hidden chambers might guard hidden treasures. Okay, so funds-wise, we'll chuck a couple in there. And of course the most important thing is we want to make sure that we add the sending. Now and then an expedition might have another purpose. Treasure seekers visiting the stones must penetrate the forest that conceals them, grapple with the locals who revere them, and finally be prepared to do some digging, even if they can find the hidden door. So as always, there's some hints that you can take out of the text. Sometimes they're a little more clear than others. But in this particular case, we'll have, we've got some pretty clear ideas. Moth follower for the woods, grapple with the locals again. Moth will take us through there, and then finding the hidden door, probably going to be lantern or knock. Now, I'm reluctant to add in any of the commissions that I'm writing until we've dealt with the notoriety, but we'll be able to manage it. It is worth remembering that we've slowly been trickling down as far as the savings is concerned, but again, we just have so much that it's not that big of a worry yet. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. And sort of as suggested, the description's more or less what we expected, and lantern or knock for the hidden door. Oops. So we would expect a restlessness to come out of the Season of Ambitions. Now, actually, sorry, I don't see any way that the expedition could possibly come through. So it's a little early for us, but we'll still get through it. I may want to consider painting at some point, though. Tonight, I sense an opportunity. Tonight, I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. Sorry, I think I spilled a little coffee on myself, so I'm just going to take a second. I try not to drink too much while broadcasting, but it does help. Does help keep me from coughing and otherwise sounding more unpleasant than I already am on the broadcast. Tonight they'll notice that. Alright, the wood beneath the mantis is darker even than this place. The moth will guide our footfalls. Success is very likely. Now, I don't see a lot of value. There's a couple of ways that I could handle adding another follower. So we know that Moth is going to take us through basically everything. I could add the knock and lantern followers now for the hidden door. Now that has the risk of the watchers or the woods, and of course if a follower gets wounded, I may not necessarily be able to use them at the time that I need them. But scars do make people better. They make them better. Or more powerful followers. The tricky part here is that really with the hint, we already have 8 lanterns, so we really just need to add 1 lantern follower. And so I'm still not 100% on the idea of risking followers for really very little reason. Like, it's not like I want to add followers just to have them wounded. So in this case, I think I'll just save it until we run into the hidden door. But again, there was some discussion on I think it was Friday or Thursday's episode, but basically around the idea of things like painting, like whether or not the way that I do painting is optimal. And I would hope over a few series now that it's kind of clear that I don't necessarily think optimal play is the only way to play the game or the most interesting for me. But it's just one of these ones that I like to try and sort of mark, because I do also know that some people enjoy playing the game or learning how to play the game from seeing the examples that, maybe some of the introductory videos don't quite work for them. I know I have one, but sometimes you just want to see the session be worked through, see how people solve certain problems. But of course there is some fun in sort of expressing a character through certain decisions that you make. And so I find the way to kind of hit the middle ground for some of that is to just highlight when... I mean, again, I probably should mark this a little bit more than I do, but on the other hand, like, I also think obsessing too much about it is falling into the same trap, right? Like, in general, I don't think it should matter if you're playing Cultist, quote-unquote, the right way, no matter what comments may suggest otherwise. But in general, like... it's useful, I guess. Basically, the way that I would go, maybe the better way to articulate it would be, if you like expressing your character through certain decisions that you make, it's helpful to sort of understand what the consequences of certain decisions are. So, you'll notice that I have a slight tendency towards not eliminating the hunters. But that comes with a cost, because of course, as we learned in previous playthroughs, hunters can be very powerful members of the cult if you're able to convert them. And so, as always, there's going to be a few different trade-offs, and it's ultimately a question in terms of how you'd like to express your character. But as I said, one of the things that can be one of the things I do sort of recognize in terms of at least highlighting a few cases where I may be making a choice that might be something that somebody would want to do differently if they were learning the game or if they were looking for ways that other people play it. I do think that there's some value in at least understanding sort of the costs of certain decisions, either the opportunity cost for not making the most of something, or what your the potential consequence, i.e. losing a follower or generating a notoriety or something like that. In any case, let's go work on the commission. Now again, for the commission, we're not going to go out of our way to turn these in right away. It'd be nice to get rid of the notoriety, but in this case here, I am going to be bringing in the higher level heart, because I'm still under the impression that the more intensity of heart, the more likely I am to get the course of the heart, which would be helpful during a the season of sickness. Now, Subtle Fracture is kind of nice. Subtle Fracture is helpful for summoning. I already have 2 summons, but if I wanted, this would be the time to try and bring a new one in. Last night, in the great pavilion above the grey sprawl of the Bounds, a woman who once called herself Teresa Gallmer sat on gilt-fringed cushions and offered me a horn cup of dream wine. The wine is imaginary, she explained, but the cup is not. To navigate the Mansis, one must understand the distinction. Perhaps one day you'll join me on the pilgrimage, or I'll join you. So here, let us share a secret. And her breath tickled my ear. So I'll probably let this expire, but again, it's nice to know I have the option. And on Matthias and the Amethyst Dimigo, loss. The right of the map's edge was given to us by the Vagabond. It is the right that Matthias used to summon the Amethyst Dimigo, but, like many summoning rights, it could be used to conjure almost any entity given the appropriate tool and the appropriate influence. Use it gently, in memory of the name and the long who suffered these agonies that they might be joined. So, another Icdysis parable. Got quite a few of those now, and another right of the map's edge, so it's not exactly something new for us, but I could drop it in there. Actually, just because I was dancing around a little bit with the cards, I should maybe just take a minute here to appeal to some of the people who might be hanging on to the old classic version or whatever. The latest update does actually have a note sort of suggesting that people consider moving sort of to the modern age. So I will just reiterate that for the simple reason that I know a lot of people were very crabby with the new update, but I think it's very, very fair to say that there have been tremendous improvements on the new UI, and more importantly, there's been a stream of quality of life changes come into the game, in addition to sort of the modding features and such. And so, I suppose the analogy that I would draw here would be, I talk quite a bit about some of the choices that I make in Cultist Simulator reflecting choices that I made back when the game was in beta. And of course, not only has that game changed, even little things like the Ardent Orison once upon a time being called Ardent Prayer, which wouldn't necessarily change my gameplay or that, but even just how you use certain things and how valuable certain approaches are. If you don't want to be like me and sort of remain stuck in a period of time as far as the game is concerned, obviously you want to use the latest version of the game. I think there is something to be said for the fact that Weather Factory continues to support and improve on this game while they're still developing the Book of Hours. And then, of course, while I'm not somebody who's really participated in the modding, it is fair to say that there's a whole other set of experiences that you can get from trying out some mods. And so in this case here, I suspect that compatibility is going to be quite a bit more difficult as time goes by when the majority of people are working with this newer version of the game. So I can't necessarily tell people what their preferences are going to be. But I think, especially given the tendency among gamers to sort of hold grudges, not necessarily to their benefit, I wanted to just take a minute. I meant to do this a little bit earlier and just mark, if you are somebody who's still on the old version, I would recommend at least trying the new one. If it's still not for you, again, you don't need me to tell you, just to go back. But I think at this point, it's definitely something where I think people should be trying out the new version of the game, and hopefully benefiting from all of the extra work that's happening on it. Because it would be a shame, right? It's sort of like if you buy a game and you because modern game development usually means that the game gets better over time. It would be a shame to cut yourself off from that. Anyways, sorry, didn't mean to turn that into an advertisement. We will now translate On Matthias and the Amethyst Dimigo transformation. The diagrams and illustrations, even across the centuries, are elegant, hypnotic, occasionally erotic in Aramaic. All right. At the study door, the work begins, and I should have gone to the white door. So a little unlucky here in the sense that this one was going to go away in 2 minutes, but I can't be too fussy with which one's going to be picked up. And I'm probably going to be dancing when this turns into a restlessness. So depending on how everything works out. Toward the third change, one reveals, one conceals, one reveals. To proceed, I must learn the lesson of concealment. All right. No one understands us, or else they understand us too well. So, this is an interesting point when, so this is a tricky part where, when it comes down to the investigation. So we know that in 43 seconds, the Suppression Bureau is going to be taking an interest in me. Now let's pretend for a minute here that this notoriety didn't sort of, that it was the one that got picked up. Let's say maybe it vanished. The fact of the matter is I'm not going to be able to get Leo to remove the reputation in time. So this is one of these cases where if I do nothing, the Suppression Bureau is definitely going to find notoriety and act on that. So it's not a big worry, but what I am going to try and do here is I am still going to talk with Leo. Oh, nuts. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, I wanted to do something first. Okay. So we're going to get hit by the evidence no matter what. What I wanted to do originally was to turn in the commissions. So we'd have two Mystique, so 50-50 chance. Leo would be pulling out a reputation. So the likelihood of us getting the evidence was still pretty high, but I've now turned it into a certainty just because I locked Leo into a 1-minute activity. So my bad. I was hoping I could give an example of an alternative way of handling evidence, but it's late. I'm very late recording this, and apparently I've taken leave of my senses. All right, the expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So that comes from, we've lost the path. The forest towers above the dust sky. The beasts of the forest are silent, but now and then we see their eyes. So what I'm going to do here, I should have added money before because we only added 2, but we're definitely going to need that to replace what was lost. So here we finished the manuscript for the Heart Commission. And at this point we'll go to the Gaiety Club. The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. And let's read an account of an occult romance. A certain Lyavogos claims to have written this in a single night as part of his initiation into the Alpine branch of the House of Leith, that order of immortals who would not pledge themselves to any hour. Just a reminder, Dr. Ibn al-Adim, called the Alpine, has an interest in overlooked history. He has offered you a commission. So that's one of the ways that you could get the hint as to check for the mortality on Dr. Adim. We cast Matthias out, and we pronounced a curse upon the Amethyst Dimigo, but we watched them in dreams. We saw them pledge themselves to the forge to change themselves and ascend anew. Into the fire they fly. Okay, so a little bit less to worry about as far as moods are concerned. We'll go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight, though. Last night I dreamed of the blue silk pavilion overlooking the cloudy labyrinth of the Bounds. I listened to the mistress of this place speak of other visitors. The Suppression Bureau come here, did you know that? I think they hope to recruit me as an ally, she snorts derisively, after what they tried to do to Christopher. But their folly is your fortune. I will tell you something that may help you if the Bureau ever troubles you. Okay. It's a little messy up there, but... I'm no further along in my path of change. In the movements of the secret forms, I must find my lesson. Alright, so the good news is, assuming that the evidence gets generated, this notoriety goes away pretty much instantaneously. Or, alternatively, Leo gets rid of it. Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer. Too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. Alright, so as always, we've got a little bit of extra time between kind of sessions at the Gaiety, so in this case I will do the last commission that's requested of me. Should have moved this one up here. That's a secret history for Dr. Adim. This may be useful for a commission. Looks like we've lost the path again. I recall my dream. This was the Lodge of Blue Silk, flapping in the winds of the bounds of the Mantis Edge, and here was its mistress, who welcomed me as she welcomes all travelers. Company is nice, she confided, but I still miss my Christopher. 10 years. 10 years and not enough. But we could not have been long together, not without touching each other, and you know what occurs when a man long lies with a long woman. Or perhaps you don't. I hope you don't. I won't tell you just in case. I'll give you a tiny gift. Now, one of the things that I like about rereading the text for the game, again, I always feel like there's something new to be learned, or even just being rediscovered, because I think it's rather well established that I can be quite forgetful as far as this game is concerned. But one of the things I really like too is that depending on where you are in the playthrough and what books you're reading, you can have lots of different, you can have a few different references which have basically a little bit more significance. So, you know, in this particular case here, right, because we've been reading on Matthias and Amethyst Dimigo, to get the glimmering event in the, through the White Door, right, essentially Teresa is talking about something very similar. In this case, this is the first of the practices that the Imago and Matthias used to begin their ascent to power. They have risen beyond our sight, but their flames may yet burn in the Mallory. So, in this case here, to sort of see references that are happening, well, references that are coming up, you know, that are sort of related to your books, or alternatively, you know, to turn around and sort of have the book, you know, just sort of remind you of something that you ran into, you know, recently in terms of your encounters with the other world. Personally, I always just kind of like those things. They enhance the playthrough. So even if you kind of already know it, or even if you've already read it, to me this is sort of where these things become valuable. Right, the proper words must be employed when the change comes. On we go to the Morphe Codex, a text of the Sisterhood of the Knot unearthed by Evan Morphe. At the study door, the work begins, and back to the White Door. No one understands us, or else they understand us too well. So again, I'm not too worried about this notoriety getting picked up, or not picked up, but not going away, because a minute. It would have been basically as soon as the evidence popped up, the notoriety would have gone away just because of the timers. In this case here, you know, oh, actually, yeah, no, we're fine. I was going to say, if we get back-to-back Season of Suspicion, that could actually be quite dangerous for me. I don't really think I need to talk with Leo right now. Well, it doesn't hurt. I suppose I could get my other followers doing more notorious acts. All right, who did we lose? Ah, the hint. Okay, so that's going to mean that we want to start adding some lantern followers. Also, alternatively, we may want to do a summoning, but we don't have the knock anymore. And the Season of Visions will pop up at just the wrong time, so Consciousness of Radiance to deal with. Rumor squats on rooftops and flutters in gutters. The hunter is making progress in their investigation. So, for the gaiety... I think what I'll do, I'm going to skip out on the meeting with Leo, and we're going to bring someone into the Wildwood Club instead. Wood beneath the mantis is darker even than this place. The moth will guide our footfalls. Success is very likely. And we finish the manuscript. So again, we will turn all this in, but I want to turn this in after we've dealt with, not evidence, but once we've dealt with our reputation. Now this might be an interesting way of handling the... Nope, actually it won't be, because... I was going to say, we'll just get the dread to get rid of the fascination, but I don't need to get that clever. In last night's dream, I was in the lodge of the Silk Knight, behind the White Door. It is difficult to remember exactly how I came there, and the mistress of this place, the woman with the dark glasses, was nodding as if I had asked her a difficult question. Of course I hadn't. I lost my speech when I passed the White Door. How is it that I can speak, she said to me. I didn't come here through the White Door. I'm not proud of what I did to come here, so let me tell you about something else. Excuse me. So, just to unpack exactly the reasoning behind what I was thinking. So, the drawback with the Consciousness of Radiance is that when it expires, so there is a light behind the world, a light above the mantis, a light that penetrates both glass and skin. It is present here. So, as it says at the bottom here, if unused, it will become fascination. Now, the problem is this will expire in 23 seconds. In 15.3 seconds, we get a Season of Visions, and of course, fascination with Season of Visions, or 3 fascination with the Season of Visions is a fail state for the game. You lose. Or I should probably avoid the term fail state, because it is true that when you, with each ending in the game, you are basically guaranteed a certain legacy for popping up. So I believe if you die of starvation, you are guaranteed to get the Bright Young Thing legacy. I think the only... yeah, so I think for the most part you can pick your legacies now. At least the DLC ones you can. But if you want, particularly because there are references to your previous character and a few different things that pop up, and it's like I prefer, one of the ways that I've been doing this playthrough is that ever since I did the first set of dedicated videos for YouTube, it is actually one unbroken chain of saves. I have made sort of these parallel, almost sort of, I guess, forks if you're a developer. But like, they're never sort of like, the branches never like merge back in. Well, forks and branches. Okay, terrible analogy, but But yeah, in this particular case here, you may notice occasionally there will be references to the character that comes before. I don't think it goes like multiple sessions deep, so you know don't look for too many references beyond the opening moments of the game. But I do sort of like the fact, right, that this is kind of carried on in its you know, for its own sort of series of playthroughs, that you'll see references to the person before if you look closely. And I don't know, there's something that I just kind of like about the continuity inside of the game. I completely forgot why I got onto this. Right, sorry, because I was calling it a fail state. So, I mean, again, I think generally, if the game ends involuntarily, most people will consider that failure and will not like it. And I mean, let's face it, it is not pleasant to want to go towards Ascension and instead wind up with the ending from Too Much Fascination. But it is one of the things that I think is maybe underappreciated about Cultist Simulator, is that the endings do actually lead you to particular paths, and I think generally they are structured in such a way that I believe they do actually teach the player how to overcome some of the challenges that are sort of suggested by the trouble they were running into. But in any case, so the reason why I chose not to go for the winter has sort of the equivalent for a Consciousness of Radiance, in that it produces dread, and of course dread can cancel out fascination. The drawback is that it would require several minutes for it to decay. That has the chance of hitting me in a season of despair, at which point I can no longer use that to tranquilize the fascination, and I just simply have other ways of dealing with fascination, as we'll see in 3.2 seconds. So in this particular case, I had an option. I was thinking about a particular path, but it was ultimately a little too dangerous. I had a more direct way of handling that problem, which we will employ presently and then wrap it up. So the Morphe Codex, in which a priestess of the Sisterhood of the Knot claims to have discerned the true meaning of the Thunderskin's birth. The writer credits the Red Grail, the Ring-Yew, and the Horned Axe, the powers the Sisterhood reveres, with agreeing a final treaty between the Hours of the House and the Hours they displaced. The Thunderskin loved the Yew, and the Grail destroyed him as restitution for the slaying of the Horned Axe sisters and brothers. And we go. Now I can approach the white door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the Mansis. Okay, so as we've said, I've kind of kept my hangers on and pawns around just for the as an option to sort of dump some of my my influence in. So we've already brought in 2 pawns. We'll add actually this wasn't intentional, but actually this winds up working rather well for us. So we'll take the Wildwood Club, an occult society dedicated to chaos and the unexpected hours. So here's our hanger-on. We'll add the Consciousness of Radiance. So in this case, because it's an influence, that's going to be consumed as part of the ritual. However, we do still need to have moth power. So in this case, we'll add the Moldy Warp Admonitions. This one is ready. And in 30 seconds, we will have a brand new follower. More importantly, we will not have fascination in time for the Season of Visions. There's something up ahead. We've made it through the forest. So what I'm going to do with this expedition, I'm going to add some money, and then I'm also going to add a lantern follower, because we are going to need to add 2 lantern followers before we get to the hidden door. I could also do that with Knock, but I can save that for now. Moth sheds its skin. The novice must only shed their clothes and their past. This one is loyal but lacks initiative. And Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. So I'm going to have some restlessness that I need to deal with. I may be setting myself up for some trouble. So if this produces restlessness, I'm going to have 90 seconds. Well, then again, I also don't have any commissions to work on right now. I'm trying to remember if I could just do a regular... Further steps. I'm already in demand for the most exacting of dances. I'm just trying to remember here. So if I add the scar, Inspired work at the Ecdysis Club. The air is wreathed with smoke. My companions on the stage are fluttering shivers of flesh and velvet. Mr. Agdesis drums pound. We begin. So I'm wondering, so if I just kept adding passion, yeah, I'm a little reluctant to do that. We don't really have any influence. Well, I guess I could add the glimmering. Yeah, I'll keep with this. As it turns out, well, yeah, we'll run with this. And now we'll get Leo working on charm. Expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now or could send another follower. So here we're going to add Catcarrow. Last night, I visited the Lodge of the Sage Knight. My hostess manifested as an elegant woman with fashionably short hair and dark glasses. No, she admits, I don't need them, any more than I need eyes. Allow me my sentimentalities. But you've come for knowledge, I expect. Here's a story I heard in my Carisham days. You're welcome to it, only remember me if you come to make the pilgrimage. And finally, the Morphe Codex. The Thunderskin entered the Mansus through the Peacock Door, a privilege never given to the witch and sister, but then their merit was much less. The writer admits that entry through the Peacock Door is unseemly, but insists that under the circumstances there was no other way. So, another Forbidden Epic. And I think that's it for tonight. I know I'm a little bit later, but I wanted to make sure that we finish the Morphe Codex. So the plan really, the sending has taken longer than expected, and this is purely experimental. I genuinely do not remember what happens with the work at the Ecdysis Club, but we will find out. And yeah, once we finish the expedition, it would be nice if we had some more vaults other than Tower Revok. But my hope here is that we'll have at least enough time to be able to sort of work through our different texts and just try and build ourselves up before moving in. And hopefully, magically, one day we may see, we may see something past the Stag Doors riddle. I think what I may do. Well, yeah, no, we can save that for future broadcasts. But thank you very much for watching. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. You can do that down below. And if you'd like notifications to when videos become available, there's a little bell beside it. Also, if you enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you would leave a like. And then if you leave a comment, those also do help the videos get noticed, as well as give me something to interact with. And for the most part, I really like seeing the comments and responding to everyone. I mean, YouTube is YouTube, so every once in a while I'll get something in my email to make me feel sad. But one thing that's very pleasant about Cultist Simulator is that it's a, for the most part, it tends to actually attract a very pleasant audience. And I think the frustrations tend to be more an exception rather than the rule, and that is absolutely not true for other games. And this is also true for the Steam forums and Discord and such. So always something that I think should be marked for the game, and absolutely a reason why I continue to stream it. I am not going to have another video for Tuesday. There will actually be videos coming up on Tuesday for other things at some point, but I still need to get those properly lined up. However, I will be back on Wednesday, and so I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you in the next one.